a little girl lay in the neonatal ICU in a big hospital, very ill. And the specialist, pediatrician, said there's very little hope for her. She had a little brother called Michael. He was 5 years old, and he kept begging his mother, please let me go in and sing to my sister. And he kept doing that, and finally the mother consented because children weren't allowed to go into the ICU, but she got him in, and he just went near his little sister and he sang, "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You are my sunshine when the skies are grey, you lift me up." And the nurse who was taking the pulse said, the rate has gone down, it's calming, and it's levelling out. And his mother, with tears in her eyes, said to Michael, keep singing, keep singing. And Michael sang, I know that you do love me. You are the only one. Please be with me and do not take my sunshine away. And the little girl, 3 weeks, was released from hospital. And it's not saying that the singing of the brother cured the girl, but it just highlights the importance of support and love in one's life when our skies become grey, for whatever cause that may be, disappointments and illness and tragedies and all those things that afflict us. And that's one of the important things to know, that we need to help with people who care about us. We need support and we need love. And that's what we're about in life. And so you've got a prime example now in the gospel where Jesus is with a whole lot of people who are not particularly Jews with any tradition, but they've got their friend, and he's deaf and dumb. And they band together and they bring the young man to Jesus, asking for cure. The boy couldn't come himself. He couldn't speak, he couldn't hear. He lived in that sort of isolated world. But his friends, his relatives, brought him to Jesus. And Jesus took him aside and then put the fingers in his ears and asked the ears to be opened. He spat and put the spittle on the tongue and said, please be loosed. And it was. And the people marvelled. And you wonder why Jesus did those two things. Because what is in the church when I was ordained, when we baptised a child, you had to put salt on its tongue and put your finger in its ears beside pouring the water. Now that all's been taken away now due to, of course, fear of diseases and things. But in the church, Jesus, through actions, brings his grace and his strength to us. We call them the sacraments, and we have the sacrament of healing. That's which I minister in the hospital every day. People are lying there struggling to regain their health in all states of greyness. But I give them this sacrament of Jesus where we have the sacred oils which are made from life-giving leaves and things from the ground. And I put the oil, anoint them on the forehead and on the palms of the hands. And there's a lovely prayer of hope and strength that flows from that accompanies it. And the people respond in different ways. But they feel at least that God is strengthening them and helping them to respond to the treatment they receive, and they make their recovery. But that's how the church operates, as Jesus did in the gospel. We use material things that are signs and power to bring about good in our lives. So when we gather together, we gather because Christ has brought us here, as we heard in the gospel. And in a way we bring the deaf and the mute and the troubled people in our lives and in the world around us. So that's why it's so important at Mass to move beyond yourself and to pray for the people who need us. We pray, of course, today for the fathers and the grandfathers and all of those, of course. We pray above all for the poor people struggling in Europe to get through Hungary, to reach Austria and Germany, and the reports of the kindness of the people to those migrants or those refugees is extraordinary. And so now we need to turn to Australia and try and open up Tasmania to bring in some of the people that flow into our country and are put in detention. So it's all the time, it's bringing the power you've got, the support you can give to the needy. And so that's what we do, and you heard it in the second reading, not to discriminate between rich and poor, but to treat all people equally. And that's what it's about today, I see, is this gospel. So we pray that we'll have the strength and courage to be available to people who need us, and you're doing it all the time, I know. Mothers looking after their children, and friends looking after each other, families and strengthening each other. And that's how God operates in our world. He will operate through us, He operates through the symbols He gives us, like the oil of healing, like the Eucharist this morning, when He comes to each of us privately and individually, to strengthen us in our faith, to give it, to energize us, to face whatever will come in life, to be people of hope and strength, and not to be people of lost and bewildered. And so we pray today that our faith will be strong, we'll be alert to the needs of people who need us, and be supporting them with love. And that's the message of Jesus in our lives.